For the next generation, living in London is becoming increasingly more difficult to afford. Many are finding alternative ways to live in the capital for less. I went to London and spoke to a few of the canal's younger residents who have made the waterways their homes to understand more about the highs and lows of living on the canals.
I'm Pearl.
I'm George.
And this is the Great Ship Sid.
I'm Graham and this is my boat, Carioca.
So I'm Chris and this is number 57.
I'm Tom, this is Tess, and this is the Jolly Kiwi.
What made you choose to live on the canal?
I'd had like a romantic notion from a book that I used to read as a kid called The Northern Lights, where a character lived on the canal. But also a friend of mine had moved on a year before I did, and I spent a lot of time helping her move and saw the community aspect and just loved it and loved the idea of not living in the same place all the time, getting to explore.
I was living in like a house share at the time with like loads of other people, which was, a little bit annoying. And I was working doing a theatre show, and there was somebody else who was working doing the theatre show who lived on a boat, and I ended up taking their boat for a cruise, and I was going along through Camden and being like, so what's the deal with this? You can kind of like moor your boat up anywhere you like, and like you just live there for a bit. And they were like, yeah, you moor your boat up, stay there for 2 weeks, move on to the next place. And I just thought, yeah, that's for me.
It was my friend's boat and I'd come around here for dinner and drinks a few times, and I saw that he had fun maintaining the boat, he had fun moving the boat and just living in different places. I always wanted to get into boating because I like the sort of inconvenient sort of side of it. It really appeals to me in a funny way. And also, yeah, it's always nice to have a project. But yeah, it's turned out to be quite a big project.
Like with coronavirus and everything, it just kind of made sense to naturally transition and move in with Pearl. Like I kind of wanted to spend more lockdowns with her and not alone.
Kind of a funny story, but I was living in Camberwell in like a very cool house in 2018, and I thought I was going to be living there for my 3rd year of uni, and Ro, who I live with, was looking to buy a boat because we had lots of friends who live on boats, and I was like, that's a really bad idea, don't do that, it's not a good way of living. And then 2 or 3 weeks before I was meant to have my second lease of the house in Camberwell, my landlord just turned around and was like, you're not allowed to live here anymore for no reason. So I was like, okay, right, I like the idea of living on a boat, let's do it. And literally from me saying that, 2 weeks later, we put the money down to buy Kiwi.
The worst experience I've had, yeah, okay, I can tell you this, okay. Probably that.
Cyclists on the towpath, they're just almost unequivocally dickheads. I get in Barney's quite a lot with cyclists about the speed at which they're cycling. I'm not talking about pootling along a bike, that's totally fine. I'm talking about people commuting, wearing Lycra and having all the gear. That pisses me off.
I haven't had many bad experiences actually, apart from one time at midnight. I was walking out the boat to go to George's flat, and I had a big bowl full of crockery that I was taking back that I borrowed, and I stepped out in a bit of a daydream, and there was some guy sitting on the roof just smoking weed. Probably didn't realise someone lived there, and I screamed my absolute tits off, fell off. He screamed his tits off too and ran off, so he was obviously not doing anything horrible. And I half fell in the canal and got a bruised knee, but that's quite a safe bad experience. He was just as freaked out as I was.
This was probably October, November one winter. We ran out of water and our gearbox broke down as well, so we couldn't move the boat to get water. But luckily we were moored in Limehouse, meaning there was a pure gym literally 2 minutes away from us, so we just used that to shower and get water. So actually we were quite lucky in that instance that we were close to a water supply, but at least once a month something will break, or you just need to constantly maintain stuff. But yeah, definitely the first 2 weeks were the hardest.
I was with a friend of mine up in the countryside, and we ended up staying up quite late, and he had a sound system on his boat, and we were playing music till pretty late. And apparently a neighbour had come over and you know, banged on the side of the boat and been like, turn the music down, which we would have obliged to if we would have heard him. But we just didn't hear him, and we were just, you know, carrying on as, you know, just having a nice time. And then the next day we went to go and move his boat, and this neighbour that had like come to complain the previous day came over and like really pissed off, like kind of like rightfully so. But the way he went about it was just like, he came with his baby and basically like was like, I'm gonna put you in the bottom of the river, and was giving us like loads of kind of like, I was like, oh my God.
The electricity went down for a long period of time as well.
That's
because
true.
we hadn't worked out like how batteries and voltages work, so we kind of spent like a few months in the dark.
Over winter.
Yeah.
That's quite fun with candles.
It is a community, and people do help each other out a lot of the time. Like, and you do occasionally, like, you know, someone will just be like, post on London Boaters, which is like a Facebook group for boating. Someone will post up like, oh, anybody got like XYZ thing that I need to like fix this problem? And people just come, you know, total strangers will just come like rushing to help.
When we first got the boat, because we were so young, everyone was always there like to help us out and like teach us new little like tricks. The first like 4 months of being on a boat, we didn't own a hose to like fill up with water, and we just asked like people near water points if we could borrow their hoses, which is like a really weird thing if like someone on the street asked that. Like you probably would say no, but everyone was there so friendly, and then like you get to have like a little conversation, like have a coffee with someone new. Yeah, it is so lovely.
You know, there's a really strong community, and you know, you can't expect everybody to do or be skilled in everything. So, you know, say for example, you know, George and Pearl taught me a lot about music and like how to play musical instruments while they were here, and you know, I was more than happy to like put a lock on their door and stuff like that, and you know, I helped Tom do absolutely fucking everything. And he actually really helps look after the dog. I think he's been around, we've been more together for a few months now, and I can probably say that he's come in and looked after Mikey probably every day, for like, well, certainly every day that I've worked. And yeah, it's a nice skills exchange in that way.
It's like there's a notion that you're all going through a shared kind of thing. So people are, there's not a chance that you'll turn up somewhere and not at least like one person who you're moored next to will talk to you and say, oh, how was your trip? And you'll make friends, you'll have a beer or you'll have dinner together. Like even over lockdown when we couldn't interact, we were having like dinners from our roofs, just chatting and meeting
Did like
people
a big
all the
Sunday
time.
roast, you know, like with the people we were living with.
They're obviously CRT who manage the waterways aren't necessarily like an evil corporation, but the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does. So there's been times that I've broken down, for example, and I've been awaiting parts, and I'll email them, and you know, I'll be dealing with one person, they're like, fine, you can overstay, blah, 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 blah. And then lo and behold, I'll get an email saying, you know, you haven't been moving your boat enough in the last month or whatever, you know, this is going to seriously impact you buying another license for your boat. And then, so I think, and the issue is with CRT as well, is obviously if you don't get a license for the boat, then they're allowed to take the boat away. So it's almost like, you know, getting your home taken off you because you've got a few parking fines, basically.
Personally, I haven't. I've spoken to people who have had problems with them, and I don't know. I think largely if you kind of stick with the general rules of like moving every 2 weeks and communicate with them, my experience of them is that they've been all right. But I know that other people have had like quite negative experiences, and that they can get a bit bullish in their like approach to how they deal with enforcement and stuff like that. I don't think they really consider that it is people's homes. I think they see it as like, this is a boat, it needs to be moved. If you don't move it, we're gonna enter you into the like legal enforcement process.
Well, I think it's like everything, isn't it? You know, like on an individual, like on a level of speaking through to a human that is just out there on the stretch. Only good things to say, really. Like, you know, I've had a very positive experience speaking to the people that come out. As a bureaucratic institution, you know, the way they're cutting the boats, I think in London is something that we're probably going to experience the negative impact of quite drastically soon. You know, on a personal level, like the people that are in there, they're grand as far as I can tell. Like the bureaucratic institution, terrible. Like, you know, like it seems like they have a vested interest as a kind of business model where they should be a trustee of the canals.
We haven't really had any problems like for us because there have been a couple of times when like we have actually broken down and they've let us stay somewhere instead of moving the 2 weeks. No, I think we've been quite lucky.
Oh, the best experience, just like that feeling when you're just cruising and it's a beautiful sunny day and you've got a few mates around and you're just cruising along the river and you've got some beers, and it's just a really nice way to like spend time with your friends. And you know, it's like an activity that you can do that you kind of have to do anyway. Like, yeah, it's just great. You feel very free.
So it's experiencing different places with different people, but the same people and the same places over and over again is nice, you know.
Well, I mean, just look out the window, you know, waking up to that, do you know what I mean? Like, that's like, and then like that being different, like, each time, like, that's remarkable.
Not paying rent is fucking great, but like the summers are by far the best thing ever. Like when it's sunny all day, you can like be on the roof, have picnics outside, barbecues, like that is the best thing. Like every summer we've always had loads of barbecues, sitting outside with our friends.
My friend put it in a really good way. He said buying a boat and expecting a flat is like buying a dog and expecting a hot water bottle. It's kind of like you can use it as a place to live in or as a place to, or as a thing to warm you, but there's so much more than that. Like it's kind of like, it was, I think I underestimated slightly the hobby side of things because, you know, it's not bricks and mortar, it's steel and water.